Hello, my name is Jacqueline Coley. I'm the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and it's my honor, thank you, to moderate this conversation with the incredible and talented filmmakers behind the piano lessons. So please allow me to welcome to the stage executive producer Katia Washington, producer Todd, producer Denzel, John David Washington, who plays Denzel, the incomparable Danielle Deadwyler, who plays Denzel, and of course, our director and co-writer, Malcolm Washington. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad that you all came to experience this incredible piece of art. Malcolm, I'm going to begin with you because your family is the custodians of August Wilson's incredible work, and your father, yes, but I'm curious for you individually, what was your relationship with this piece of art before you decided to adapt it?
First of all, thank you for coming. It's so exciting to share the film with y'all. Engage in conversation about it. I think, we come from like a really proud culture, one that we uphold our heroes and feel connected to them. And August Wilson is one of those heroes for our culture. So I think there was always a connection there because in his writing, he's concerned with community, with the everyday lives and experiences of our people, our ancestors. And these works are set over a period of time, of a century of Black American life. So as a member of a Black American man who's lived in that time, he speaks to me directly and I feel directly connected to him. And this work specifically spoke to themes that I was just wrestling with in my own identity, in my own life, like the ideas of legacy, of ancestry, what these things mean for us, the idea that our histories are deep and all these people that made decisions and took actions and sacrifice for centuries before you even existed, that they all live in you now and that you have a responsibility to acknowledge them and make decisions on your future based not to do what they did, but with the knowledge of what they've done for you. So in that way, I always felt connected to it, and it was an honor to honor that.
One of the things you said when I was getting ready for this that I found to be particularly profound is that obviously this is an incredible family affair, but your father really gave you distance. He said, I'm the producer, but he's the boss. I would love for you to talk about, he said it, I did not. What that was like for you as a first-time director to have that liberty to really shape your vision as you wanted to.
Yeah, I think in an artist's life, you have your entire life of experience to draw from, and any kind of leadership position you're in a creative project, like a producer, like you're producing before the movie starts. So I think he gave us a space where we're actually making the movie, but between him and my mom set up this really wonderful environment, a fertile ground for us to be raised in with a certain kind of ethic and a certain kind of code of conduct and a certain connection to our heroes and Black artists that came before us, and know that that was in front of us too, and that we could choose that if you so wish and you work your hardest, you can make something of yourself in the way that these other people did. So I think in that way, he's been producing the movie for a long time before that. So by the time we got to set, his work was done.
Thanks, wow. With that incredible introduction, Mr. Denzel Washington, sir, I have to bring it to you. Yes. As Malcolm has said, you are the producer of this work in several different layers, quite literally. But for you, I'm curious, knowing that this was going to be the adaptation, there's aspects of it that you wanted to see as a producer, but I was surprised to hear you say that Malcolm brought things to it that surprised you. I'm curious what he brought to this that, surprised your familiarity with the text.
I'm the associate producer. Their mother is the lead producer. And as lead producer, she approached me about one of her children. And said, Malcolm's got some ideas. Maybe he's putting something together. Maybe you should take a look at it. And he made a 2-minute or like a minute and a half, 2 minute, like a short film, and then a lot of material ideas that he had. And Todd and I looked at it and we tried to hire him immediately. Don't get me to bragging, but he graduated #1 in his class at AFI, so. and Penn, and Yale, and Morehouse.
We're filming in Columbia here.
There's too much talent on this stage. Thank you very much. I'll bring it to you, Katia. One of the things that I found out, first of all, thank you. When I was asking about, there's a lot of incredible producers that are a part of this, and everyone, when you make art like this, has to find the part that they're going to contribute. And I was happy to hear that your biggest contribution was helping build out Malcolm's vision and helping sort of provide those tangible elements that he needed to put what he was seeing in his head on screen. I'd love for you to talk about how you did that and some of the fun things that you had to execute.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, a lot of it is listening and kind of reminding him that he already has all the answers and giving that kind of support to facilitate the vision that he has. So I think a lot of it was what you do with any good piece of art, which is break it down, build it up, break it down, build it up. So going through the script, talking about the characters maybe in outside of the box ways, thinking about what kind of music would they listen to, or what does that field look like, or is there another way to make that idea clear that maybe is in the text already that we can bring out together. So I think that was a really important part of respecting how dense and rich the text was, but also, giving yourself the latitude to interpret it in maybe a new way, or to break out of it in a way that's a little bit unexpected.
I love that. Todd, I'm going to bring it to you. I love this, that your history with the Washington family goes back so far. You were telling me that you met Malcolm when he was still in Pauletta Stomach, which I think is incredible. But that sort of institutional knowledge on a production like this is very precious, but you also added new chapters throughout the production. I'd love for you to take us inside what it was like on set to watch all of Denzel's children excel as they brought August Wilson's words to life.
Great question. It is true, I've known them all a long time, and to get to watch them work together as a group and individually was nothing like I have ever experienced. So it was so great what Katia just said, getting to watch her produce a movie, let alone her brother's directing debut, her other brother as an incredible actor, her sister's in the movie, her mom plays a role in the movie, and her father got to produce it. So for me, and we've worked together a lot of times now, I am kind of like the white proud papa. It makes, it fills me with joy, it really does. And she's so capable and is an amazing listener, and I think 3/4 of being a good producer is listening, hearing what your director is going for and trying to help him to achieve his or her vision of excellence. And may it be what John David or Danielle or Ray or Sam or any of the actors need or want to also get to their vision, and Katia is really great at that. And then, with Denzel, we worked together for 30-something years, and we made a lot of movies together, both him as a director and actor in the movies, and just as an actor or just as a director. So we kind of have a shorthand and a trust, and I think we know how to. We're very cognizant of what works on the screen and what we need to get to work on the screen. So it it was great for us to be able to do, this is the third August Wilson we've done. So it never gets easier, but it does get, there's more of a shorthand. There's more things that we know how to avoid, where to avoid, or where to go, or where to lean into. And then with John David, for me, it just was the treat of a lifetime. I think he is exceptional in the film. And I got to watch him every day and be exceptional, just the same way he is in real life. So that was a real treat for me also.
Speaking of which, Mr. John David Washington, sir, I think it's a yes. Let's give it up. It is a testament to your acting that the minute you came on screen, I was like, he needs to go away, he's dangerous. And you're such a lovely person in real life. I'm like, oh wow, he's a really good actor, because I was like, oh, he's danger. Talk about that aspect of Boy Willie, because he's so jovial when we meet him, but underneath it, it's the danger that his words sort of imply. I'm curious if you could take us in how you brought him into that scene, because his introduction, I felt it's like a chord. There's a lot of things that are playing underneath his words.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think maybe those feelings are brought to you by, the filmmaker and what we're looking at.
No.
Serious. I mean, because there's you have your backstory, you have your preparation and what he's going through, but it's ultimately what you're looking at. And I think these scenarios and these scenes and how he's opened up the play in that way, where we're in different locations, could dictate how you meet the character, how you perceive the character. So I got a lot of assistance in, Mike, our DP, Malcolm's vision, and August Wilson's brilliant poetic writing. He's spherical in his writing. It's rare that as an actor you get to fully have a full course meal of emotions that are expressed through dialogue. A lot of times you got to find yourself in behavior, which I still did, but when you get to say the words that he's actually living, it's quite a thrill and a huge opportunity.
And Miss Danielle Deadwyler. It really kind of isn't, though. Ma'am, one of the reasons why I felt that danger is it was in your eyes. It was reflected in your eyes from the minute he came into the room. And Bernice is going through so much throughout the course of this. I'm curious, as an incredible actor that you are, what was essential to her that you had to find in this performance? Because she has to go through so many different emotions: despair, desire, longing. But when you brought it down to the quintessential of who Bernice was, what helped you hold dear to it?
So I'm gonna tag along on what JD always says. He talks about Boy Willie at his core not having love or wanting love. And I think that's a critical, dangerous thing, to get back to that question about him. Like, when you are without love, that is a dangerous life. And so Bernice is in a personal, inner, soulful diaspora unto herself. It's a spiritual diaspora, right? And the traveling from being a Southern Black woman with traditional Black Christianity roots, coming into an understanding of something that's much more intuitive and raw in West African spirituality. And that's a crossing of land, right? And then there's an erotic self diaspora that's happening, and being one who has to uphold certain traditions and the way that the labor is performed, and coming into something much more erotically charged unto who you want to be, right? That's different from your mother, that's different from the harshness and the trauma of the loss of your father, and different from the grief and the longing that come with the loss of spouse. And so all of that is moving oneself across lands, be them literal and earthen or spiritual and soulful. And so that diaspora is, at its core, one wanting to get to a certain understanding of love.
the apps, yeah. Nothing I'm gonna say is gonna touch that, so I should just leave.
Thank you all for having me.
Remind me
So
to,
my filmmaker, my director.
no. Remind me to ask you last question, so I don't look embarrassed going forward. No, I'm kidding, no. But the absence of love in Boy Willie and the search for love in Bernice. I saw it in an interesting way that both of these characters are speaking a lot to their ancestors, to the dead people in their life. They're just having very different conversations. I got a little bit of it. For you, Malcolm, I'm curious if that is something that you were bringing to the direction in this, if that was conversations that you maybe had with John David and with Danielle.
They were conversations I was having with myself and my ancestors. I was like, there's my mom's dad is a figure that's loomed large over me. Somebody passed away when I was really young, when I was 8. And his example, as told through her to me, of what masculinity can be and what it can look like. It's an intellect, it's a wisdom, it's a passion and a patience. It's all of these things were taught to me after he passed away. I am super nosy. And I was like going through stuff one day at the house, and I found all these tapes. And on these tapes, my grandparents passed away within 4 months of each other. They like couldn't be here without one another. There was that kind of love, it was that kind of thing. And in that 4 months, after my grandfather lost his wife, my mom taped him and recorded his philosophy on love, what being a man, all these ideas he just spoke to a camera about. And she could never bring herself to watch it. And I found them one day, digitized them, didn't tell anybody, and cut a little thing together and sent it to her on Father's Day.
Sending emotional booby traps through the email.
But it was for myself too. He's teaching me, he's talking to me directly 20 years later, you know what I mean? So it was that kind of connection. The fear of grief, the fear of death that I had of my loved ones from established at his funeral, I now found this really poetic connection to later. And it was that kind of spiritual arc, emotional arc that I wanted this film to be, where it was this haunting that you're afraid of, these people that you don't want to engage in and you don't want to connect to. You have to confront that and go through that to get to the poetic, to get to this incredible connection between them, and you can live peacefully, protected by them after that. And that's the film.
The culmination of that conversation that you talk about is the scene towards the end in front of the piano. I call it the call of the ancestors moment of it. And I'm going to divide this up in 2 ways. I'd like the producers to talk about the support that they had to give for that scene, because I think we all understand the film, the play, lives and dies by what happens a lot in that scene. So I'd love for the producers to talk about both the physical things, whether it be, getting the department heads certain aspects, whether it be clearing time, finding locations. What was the things that y'all had to contribute to make that scene as incredible as it was on screen? And then I'll talk to the actors and the filmmakers about actually doing it.
Yeah, I think the first one you hit on was time. So that meant in preparation, when we're having our production meetings with our department heads, making sure that they're circled and understanding the depth of the emotion of the scene, what he wants to do visually, and also growing that vision, adding in their bits and pieces, making sure our lighting and our grip teams had enough time on the weekends if we needed to do the flashing that happens. That took a lot of timing and a lot of work from a lot of craftspeople. So making sure they understood making sure she had some piano lessons so that she could rock up to the piano. Like little details like that from way, way before we're actually on a set, so that when we got there, our job was to step out of the way and let them be moved by the spirit and let them get it done, and they did it.
That's great. I just want to check if Todd or Denzel, you want to add anything? She didn't need anything, but I'm just double checking, doing my job.
Are there a lot of producers here? So you guys know what she said is Preparation's everything on any movie you do, and Malcolm was all about that. We didn't have a lot of time to shoot, so he had to make every minute count. And Katia's right. I mean, we had to think about everything in prep, everything. And that we knew that scene was going to be the make or break scene. So, from our production designer David Bomba to making sure that the piano, we kept working on that piano. I don't know how many
Yeah,
times.
we were like 3 weeks in shooting.
Yeah, I mean, the carving and the color and the way Mikey lit it, I mean, it was very, very, as you all know, everything's about the specifics. And then, like Katia said, getting out of the way, although being aware of the time, but getting out of the way and letting Malcolm and his actors go at it. And thank God they all were on the same page.
But to speak to that, like the relationship between director and producer, and it's tested in those moments because I come to you with a series of words that like looks crazy on paper too. The clarity that the film has is not necessarily, you can't get all of these things right away. What we're talking about of this like this combination of West African spiritual practice and Black Southern Christianity, like it's not, there's no dissertation about all of these things. It just is actions and lines on a piece of paper. And for them to trust and understand what we're doing and distill this kind of poem of sorts into a practical, oh no, we need 2 pre-light days. And we're already over time, and we're at the budget is at its it's at that moment. But no, those 2 pre-light days are so important because that's like the practical part of, that's how you tell the story of the ancestors coming, and that's what the whole movie's about, And without the understanding of what we're trying to do from a creative level, and then translating that into the physical nuts and bolts of production, and giving me a first-time filmmaker, the space to dream and like tell these story in a new way, it's like I can't speak enough about that relationship and how important that is and the protection that they give you to live your dream.
It is about trust. At the end of the day, I think the best relationships that producers and directors have is trust, and either you have that or you don't have that. And when you have it, it's amazing what you can do, even when you have little time or little money on a film. When you trust, and as a producer, when you really trust your director and his or her vision is so clear, you do whatever you can do as producers to help them achieve their vision. That's just, you have to do that if you want to succeed as a producer, I think.
I think he's just happy to be up here, but I want to make sure if he had anything to add. No, sir? I'm going to bring it down to our actors and our directors about setting up that day. And I'll start with Danielle and John David Washington. Just for you both, you're filming separate scenes. They may have been done on separate days, but both of your characters have to go through a lot in that moment. And I'm just curious how you prepared for it as actors and what conversations you had with Malcolm about what each of your characters were doing in that moment. And John David, I'll start with you.
I think you talk about separate days. Feel like separate,
I mean,
separate films almost. Like it was incredible to see what at that moment, especially I'm thinking about Corey Hawkins, who's a brilliant actor. To me, he set it off. He started speaking in tongues. That wasn't in the script. Maybe I talked about it. I don't know where it came from, but he just started going. I wasn't sure if this was a warm up or if this was really like something. He left the set. He left. That was no longer Corey. That was Avery. That was maybe Corey's ancestors. That was everything that has happened up until that moment in his life that was coming out. It was incredible, and that energy started to bounce off the room, and then it entered this one right here. And we all witnessed, but witnessing it in real life was incredible. It's like that actor's dream of when you're in that zone, when you just lose yourself. I got to witness that, and I knew I was like witnessing something incredible, something great. And confirmation was when one of our producers came in emotional after Malcolm yelled cut, and was uncontrollably emotional, and just you couldn't deny the power of what those 2 actors brought. and then how Malcolm captured it. You know what I mean? That's one thing to do it as a performer, but then when your director and everybody on board they get it and they use it, and we get to experience it now with you all. It was just a magical moment, one I'll never forget in my career. And then the other movie was Upstairs when I was getting beat up by work. It was more Tom Cruise and so there's the, and which was also lovely.
You were in Tenet, you were fine. Sorry. No, they made you do a lot.
Spiritual.
You can't go in 6 months. I can't get 2 takes.
That's too real. Miss Danielle.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's surrender, right? Just surrender to Malcolm. That's all they wanted, and that's what that scene is, right? It's not over preparing for that. It's just being charged by what is beyond you and is asking of you. It's a nature-oriented thing. It's an ancestral thing. It's something that we prepared for in a lot of different ways. Bernice is an acolyte in that moment. White is a color in West African spirituality that enables you to be witnessed, to be seen, and to be a conduit for the ancestors. And so that's what that was.
A lot more than that, but I appreciate it too.
But that's big. What
Yeah, it is huge. It is. But I mean, there's also like the physicality. You have all of this background behind you with the hands and the way that you cut that with the basically what we'd call the archival footage from previous in their history. I mean, did you storyboard it before? How did you find that rhythm?
Yeah, so much has been written about the end of this play, of this story as a play, and so I was really excited about a new imagining of it. And there's such a strong story of belief and faith in this film, and spiritual practice, and the story of our ancestors and the migration of spiritual practice from the continent to here through the islands. So I knew that digging into these spiritual practices were going to be, the answer would be in there. And I had this idea of like a family portrait that spans space and time, so I was like, oh wow, what would that, like if our ancestors, if we are connected to them, like in some of our, in some spiritual practices suggest, what would that look like if they're here in the room with you, and their clothes span 5, 6, 7 centuries. And that story is told in a family portrait, and that's woven into my upbringing of the Black Christian Southern tradition, and the concept of laying hands, and like how both of these spiritual practices could be at odds, but they both exist inside of us. Like Bernice and Boy Willie, these contradictions live inside of us, and that makes us such a rich people for it. We carry these things, so the film must carry these things. And the answer to it isn't one or the other, it's a combination of both. You need Boy Willie and Bernice, and that's what makes their coming together feel so good, because it's a healing in all of us. It's a healing of our people, of these people, but that healing is for us, and the thanking of them after, it's like all of that is that healing that we need so desperately. It's a reconciliation of these ideas that make it powerful to me.
It is. Mr. Denzel Washington, sir, I'm going to give you the last word, and because in a way you and Ms. Pauletta Washington had the first word, so. And all we see.
That's good. That's good. That's great.
But, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for you, this entire experience has to be precious. You're watching your children craft an incredible piece of art with an artist that you've had a lifelong conversation with. But if there is a moment for you that you are going to hold dear about this entire experience and would like to share, I'd love for you to talk about what was the most.
No moment. I don't have one. I don't have a story to tell. They're the storytellers, and they've told the story. I don't have anything clever to say. I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it, and I'm loving it. So that's it. My sister is bipolar, and reach back into the history of the Washington side of the family, which goes back to 1790, where connected to Benjamin Corbin Washington, who was connected to George Washington. No surprise. But to know who my great-great-great-grandfather was, my great, and my grandfather, going all the way back to 17-something, and to hear about how that comes all the way through to now, and to see and to feel, it's exhilarating, and it's exciting, inspiring, and the sky's the limit for our future.
So thank you for the interest in that. I want to thank our responsible